My chosen term is phantom pain. Pain is contained within a parenthesis, so that I hope it becomes a whispering extra, caging the pain but not concealing it. I arrived at this term by looking closely at the experiences made possible by some of the questions posed through the collaborative platform I co-founded in 2010 called the Center for Historical Reenactments. From projects, from the project titled Passages, References and Footnotes that took place at the site of the former past office whose archives were destroyed by the apartheid state, engaging with artists' research material instead of their finished projects. The past office was a central site whose function was to control and administer black bodies across the country. After Passages were found and moved to a project space in the east part of Johannesburg called Doornfontein, a post-industrial area, and embarked on a project called glossary, a research project. I show you here not the space, but the window of the space, because at some point we had to move away from the space and foreground the window so that we don't have to talk about white cubes and such things. But instead create our own problems. So our first project in the space was titled Xenoglossia, a research project which was planned to last for 6 months but continued for another 2 years. With all other projects also triggered somehow by its original questions. Xenoglosy, which is the two words, xeno, strange or foreign, glossy is language, is a contested paranormal condition in which a person speaks or writes in a language they have no contact with. It is a condition justifiable or many associate with reincarnation, another contested phenomenon. The project opened up ways language has led to tensions that have influenced historical events, such as the 1976 Soweto student uprising and also xenophobic attacks that erupted in 2008. But also it repositioned artistic statements, such as these works, one by Ernestine White, a black artist who grew up in exile in America and returned to South Africa after 1994, and Brett Murray, a white artist from Cape Town, who Ernestine White positioned the statement, I do not speak Xhosa, which is a language spoken mostly in Cape Town, and Brett Murray, it's almost like a mantra, saying I must learn to speak Xhosa. What codes are embedded within these two positions, and what do these works reveal about post-apartheid tensions and emotion sides of cultural identities? Is one of the questions. These are images from the Xenoglossia, the research project, which included an ongoing project, a performance by Donna Kukama and Kimangwele Kulere, who are both members of CHR, and I work very closely with her. The title of their performance, The Unknowing Grammar of Inhabiting a Text. These are some of the residues from the performance. And here you see the space, and we had events, not in a choreographed time, but whenever we felt like we are ready to show what we have come up with. And the project Naguranza became one of the appendixes to Xenoglossia. It allowed us to come out into the street and escape the physical space and its traps. It was a response to a pink elephant, which has stood in a street corner visible from the CHR space perhaps since the mid-90s, if not earlier. It is a symbol of a liquor store chain that was relocated from the area more than a decade ago. So the chain store is no longer there. The building, and of course most of the buildings in the area were deserted and are squatted by immigrants from different parts of the country and the continent. Namuranza is a Tonga phrase, which is a language spoken in Mozambique, meaning I love you in English. The corner, this particular corner, is a site where Johannesburg-based Mozambican musician was shot and killed 10 years ago, and Namuranza is one of his very well-known album and single. I'll show you some images. And we commissioned this graphic artist, Breeze Yoko, to create a kind of a portrait. Here we revisited a site of trauma not by reproducing the pain, but rather by allowing the memory of the traumatic event to open up alternative strategies for constructing a more enabling vision for one's cultural inheritance or possible future. These are just some of the activities that were happening on this one day, including this t-shirt printing. And we worked with a group which was located nearby us, called Keleketla Library. And they produced this t-shirt at the site of a bus stop that leaves every day at 5 p.m. to go to Zambia, to different cities in Zambia, Lola and Lusaka. And this site is a packing site during the day, and then the bus leaves the next morning at 8 a.m. And then the t-shirts were given to the people getting on the bus, so they are somewhere in Zambia. This was also an off-site project, which was titled Fragile, which was driven by questions regarding the fragility of memory of archives, as well as hierarchies inherent in the memory industry, or the franchising of memory. In South Africa, these hierarchies are best exemplified in the precarity of one archive of the now late Alf Khumalo, who in 2003 converted his old house in Deep Kloof, Soweto, into the Alf Khumalo Museum. For more than 5 decades, Khumalo documented some of the country's vital moments in history. In July 2011, during our visit to the museum, my colleagues from the CHR and I were shown around a room housing his most iconic images, a dark room that was no longer in function, a room with heaps of boxes, negatives, prints, personal notes, and outdated photographic equipment. We became curiously absorbed, the spirit and energy that seemed to hover over what was trapped, hidden, and covered in dust in this one room seemed to be about to explode. So in March 2012, we took a 72-hour self-initiated in discussion with Alf, a residency at the museum. For 3 days, we searched for the inapparent, for everything, claimed, learned, listened to Khumalo's narrative, discussed sorted boxes, bags, images, documents, equipment, people, more people. Some we knew, most we didn't, many dead, many survived, black people, in agony, in love, at funerals, at rallies. And we recreated this banner in reference to a banner carried in a 1985 protest rally commencing the 25th anniversary of the Sharpeville massacre of 1960, 21 March. This black and white photograph hangs in the room with other iconic images in Khumalo's museum. Seemingly unaware that the government had banned the demonstration, the protesters were suddenly faced with police gunfire in which more than 20 people lost their lives. To single out this reference was our attempt to reinstate the fact of history lived or destiny foretold. The statement, "They will never kill us all," dramatizes continuity of polarization, they versus us, foreigner versus tourist. The banner leaping out of this historical moment revives a discursive platform within which the current spaces of struggle might be critically examined through its many archives. The fragile project of Khumalo's archive is a time machine that also allowed us to imagine a reversal of time as a way of interrupting the present, a present filled with unrealistic speculations over what would happen, for example, when Mandela dies or die. Using images from the Alf Khumalo archive, we created a performance that imagines that it is 2081 and Mandela is not dead, but is now a 25-year-old who in 2012 started getting 1 year younger each year. This sought to expose the absurdities associated with the inevitable, using time as a tool and setting it out of joint. And for the sake of time, I will fast forward to the moment where we decided to end CHR, staging an event titled "We Are Absolutely Ending This" on the 12th of December 2012. And I will read from our statement. "We are absolutely ending this" is an event which reconsiders what it means to outlive central questions foregrounded during our formation. The program will include a series of simultaneous activities and presentations that run from noon to midnight on December 12, 2012. The program will look back at the project's 2 year of operation from the vantage point of concluding remarks. The questions remain pertinent and ingredients remain the same: words, images, objects and sounds, people and tools, walls and windows, but perhaps the answers need to be reassessed. The phantom, call it a mission statement, the concept, a void made visible, was recognized and turned into a sculpture that dropped the pin over our roof. A marker that makes the institution function in certain ways, not ways that are undesired or redundant, but rather desired differently. We are absolutely ending this, partially due to the question of mystery regarding the audience, partially because of expectations of deliverance, and partially the trap of sustenance. Those who initially walked through the door now simply must take a leap out the window, not because they enjoy it more, not even because it's more risky, but rather just because it happens to be there. The institution does not have to be Hotel California. You can check out, you can leave. The next time you come around, it simply might not be there. The resulting project, After Tears, was really about exercising a 5-second rule, which starts from the fall. And for this, we started with the event. There was a performance by Donna Kukama, one of CHR member, who in 2009 created a performance under the bridge in Johannesburg, which was called The Swing. And she was on a swing. It's called The Swing after Franconac. And at some point of this performance, she falls and breaks her leg, which you don't see in the video. But then we wanted to pick up from there, but also from the idea of kind of leaping outside of the window of the space to end it all. And created this event invited by the museum in New York, which is titled After Tears. After Tears refers to the after-burial parties that became a youth fad related to and as a result of the many deaths, especially those associated with HIV/AIDS. Interestingly, these parties are also known in an Afrikaans term, which is wie sien ons, which is a question translated in English as who is seeing us or who sees us. For us, this question becomes a fitting frame for a project that explored commemoration and more specifically the cultural performances and rituals around death, whether that of a person, institution, or era. Wie sien ons, who sees us, also positions us within what Sarat Maharaj describes as the international space of translations. In a short text titled Perfidious Fidelity, the untranslatability of the other, Maharaj writes, and I quote, "No position permits a viewing without itself turning into the view. What prevails is a sense of watching as we are being watched, of someone looking over our shoulder as we look the other, elsewhere, everywhere, and besides. The very transparency blocks off and shutters occludes. We are unable to totalize this mapping of the world. Each time something slips, out of our grip, we grapple with leftovers, the remainder of the untranslatable, and end of quote, and perhaps the untranslatable is the phantom, the pain. This is the space, and the window returned, much faded. And this is a performance lecture by Kimang that he conducted in this space, and a performance by Donna Ugama. If the past were to be postponed into the future, would this moment be a memory? In which for 8 hours she dragged this bricks back and forth in the space. And I just wanted to talk about a project that we engage in now, which basically takes the story of this woman who is called the prophetess of doom, who in 1856 went to fetch water from the river and saw a reflection of, or she said she saw a reflection of the ancestors who gave her a message to give to the Xhosa people that they must kill their cattle and burn their crops, and on such and such a day they will rise, the ancestors will rise and the white people will be driven back to sea, and there will be peace. And of course, nothing like that happened, so she, the people did kill their cattle, burn their crops, and it kind of opened up for the British to come and take the land. And the project that we're working on now is titled Digging Our Own Graves 101, and it takes basically the story of Nonqalusa, bringing it to the present to kind of try and connect certain points. And one example also is this of commemoration, and this George Harrison statue. When you drive into Johannesburg from the airport, you see the statue, and he is said to have discovered the gold in Johannesburg. And if you know that Johannesburg is kind of founded from the gold rush, and it's quite interesting that the act of digging produces a statue that kind of shoots up. And this is also a new project that is a heritage project that is proposed. Which is quite problematic in its way. And with this project, we wanted to go back to the act of digging as commemoration. And there has been projects such as this one by Kimang Ngcobo, which means turn over the coats, in 2008, where he started to dig a hole, and lo and behold, there was a rib cage, but it turned out to be that of a cow. And such images taken by Gabi Ngcobo, which are quite haunting, and these are young artists that are just graduated from university. Okay. So I'm just gonna stop soon. And these bring back basically the question of land, which is the Native Lands Act in South Africa last year was commemorated. It's a land act from 1913. So the 101 in the project kind of sits outside the commemoration in order to find other strands of thinking through the questions of land.